Somerville in Upper Buchanan goes on the Bassa people call it. That's my birthplace. Even though my aunt thinks Somerville just turned 90 years old on May the 5th, she was here. We had a wonderful celebration. She's now back in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, the United States. Greetings to all of our people across the length and breadth of our nation, and in a special way. Greeting to former President George Weah and to his wife and family, and greetings to current President Joseph Boakai and his wife and family. Welcome to the Liberian Renaissance. Changing minds are changing attitudes. Today, it's another special edition, and I usually look forward to these special editions because of the wisdom behind the message of the one who is on the show today. Stay where you are because I have in studio Her Excellency, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former president of the Republic of Liberia, and she remains in history the only female president of the Republic of Liberia and in Africa. And so it's a wonderful edition, and this is my birthday edition as well. And so I am a blessed child. Welcome to the program. Madam President, welcome. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Larry. I'm always pleased to be here, to be able to communicate with you and with our dear citizens in the country.
You've been, I want to say, a bit of globe trotting, but you've been Africa trotting as well. You've been out for a little bit, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I have. In fact, sometimes my family told me a little bit too much. But I do have some obligations. I've committed myself to be a part of several institutions and organizations. And I go out to participate in their meetings. I also get invited to universities to speak about trending global issues. And those are always good for me to keep me professionally alert. And perhaps more importantly, I established my own Presidential Center for Women and Development here in the country on International Women's Day, March 8, 2018. And through that, we've been working with women in Africa who have already committed themselves to a journey of being able to advance themselves to higher positions of public service. And we profile them, we advocate for them, we have them work with mentors who are women who have already advanced very highly in positions of public service, such as former presidents or the head of international and national institutions. And so because of that, I spend a lot of time working on that. I have a staff that work with me on that, and we have 42 dynamic women of different ages, not so young because they're holding a high level of positions already in their journey. They just want to be at higher levels of leadership. And those 42 women come from 19 African countries. And it's a joy. We just, I'm sure everyone had seen a bit of the photos circulating on front page and Instagram and other things where they had their forum.
Right, and that's what I was coming to next.
Okay, let me let you take it on.
And that's what I was coming to next because you've been in Kigali, Rwanda, one of Africa's fastest growing country in terms of development, and you had your Kigali forum, and at that forum you also had President Paul Kagame. What was the thrust of that forum, and what was accomplished?
The forum was to bring these women together, all the women from the three cohorts. We have 15 women in each cohort, and we've had three sessions of selecting women, and to bring them together so they get to know each other, so they exchange on each of their strategies for higher positions of service. They get an opportunity to meet, and more importantly, President Kagame was gracious and agreed to sit in on the sessions, not only to speak and talk about what he's done to make Rwanda such a successful country, what he's done for in policy and in determination to make Uganda with the highest level of women in parliament, over 60%, which is globally, is not just Africa, and to share some of his thoughts about that, and also not only speaking and telling them some of his what he does to make his country successful, but he had an exchange with the women, and he allowed complete freedom in the exchanges, in what questions they would ask him, what comments they would make about situation. And in the end, it was such a delightful event. We had some of the board members of the center participate, as well as a couple of our partners who support the center. It was such an exceptionally joyful occasion, and everyone left there happy to have met each other, to have met the ministers from Rwanda who participated, and more importantly, to have had a freedom of exchanging words with the president.
I can imagine it was quite a gathering, considering who President Kagame is, because I remember in 2008 he was here in Liberia for the women's colloquium, and I remember interacting with him, and he came along with a female senator from his country, and he even listened to this Changing Minds and Changing Attitudes program. But being in Rwanda, I'm sure it brought back some memories, because you were with UNDP at the time of Rwanda almost went in a blaze. And my understanding is that you were part of the process and the strategy for helping to get Rwanda back on its feet. How did you feel being there?
I guess I felt very uplifted, because when I went to Uganda for the first time in the position as head of the Africa Bureau of the United Nations Development Program, the genocide, was also in the process of just ending. And so I was able to see the horrific nature of what was going on, with such sadness, so much pain. But we continue to work with the country leaders and to see how we might mobilize the resources to get them started. So you can imagine, when I go back, I had been back there a couple of times before, but every time I go back to Kigali, I'm always amazed at how much more advancement they have been able to achieve in such a period. And so this time I could see such discipline, such respect for order, such determination, commitment to country, to raise the country up and to make everyone proud of it. And this is why, that's why they're so successful, because it starts with themselves. And the leader, of course, provides the impetus and provides the guidance and the authority, but it's really our citizens themselves that have to carry this and bring the kind of improvement and development to their country. So I guess that's what topic is all about.
Absolutely, absolutely, madam. And sticking with Rwanda a little bit, if every time I go there, I am renewed in my thought process with a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership on the part of the Rwandese. Because if that were not the case, the nation would not make the progress that it's making. They own that country. They want to see it rise positively.
Absolutely. And
Lessons to be learned here in Liberia.
it takes the part on the part of everybody. It's not just the president or the ministers or the directors and all of that. It takes everybody doing their part. So that's what I think has happened in Rwanda. And I think President Kagame was very clear in telling people that what he does is make sure that everyone does something. Everyone feels the ownership of the country and everyone feels the responsibility to be able to move the country forward. That I think is the clear measure of their success.
Still sticking with Africa, President Obasanjo, your very good friend, who I think he thinks the world of you, and during your presidency, I think President Obasanjo visited Liberia very, very often, and even established a poultry and an egg production farm in Liberia. There, I read this article where it's a very strong article, I think. Have you read it?
Well, it depends on which article you're talking about.
The article Z, the one where he talked about Nigeria needs to reform, needs to rethink its presence and how it moves with development.
Okay, President Obasanjo, is such an all-purpose person that when you say it, because I know I just was part of writing something about him as the man of peace. I don't know if that's the one you refer to.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay, well, yes, that one also chronicled all the many things he's been doing, not only in Africa, but across the world, to bring peace and harmony, to mediate where there were crises and where there were conflicts, to make sure that he brought people together through consultation, through dialogue, through compromises. And so he's done it for so many countries. I mean, he did some for Liberia. He's in Nigeria with the Biafra conflict. He helped to resolve that. In Ethiopia, he was there. Sudan, he was there. Yeah, he travels also, into the Middle East area, the Palestinian problems and all of that. So that article that we penned to be able to praise President Obasanjo as a man of peace, as a man who spent his whole life, the one who set the example also about being in power in a presidential office involuntarily.
And knowing when to leave.
Knowing when to leave and, letting it go and having someone else take place and being able to support that person in continuity. And, I think his example is laudable. And I hope we could see many people that will study, read some of what he does, understand some of the measures and the tactics he applies in accomplishing these peace and solidarities as he does. That I wish people use some of those examples in some of the very serious conflicts that we face in Africa today.
President Obasanjo seems to be a contextualized diplomat, but he doesn't mince his words when he speaks about Africa, about democracy, and what it is that we need to do to make the difference. And I think that's what sets him apart.
Absolutely. I think if there are two people that I admire because of their, just tell it like it is approach, it's Mo Abraham
Oh,
and
yes.
President Obasanjo.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
when they take the stage, they tell it just like it is. I mean, they express their opinion very firmly, very strongly, and most times they are correct in the positions they take.
You're listening to and you're watching also the Liberian Renaissance, changing minds and changing attitudes. We've got in studio with us Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former President of the Republic of Liberia. This program is also on 99.9 ELBC, 89.9 on Metro and LNTV. We're talking a whole host of issues with one of Africa's most distinguished stateswomen, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Let's move a little bit now. Let's come home. We've been out there. Now let's come home. You've been out, but you're back, and I know you read the papers. Sometimes I see at 1 a.m. you're on the WhatsApp. You're still reading and connecting. The formation of the Boakai administration. What's your take? Plus and minuses.
Well, let me start with this because I've been waiting for you to come to that. Coincidentally, President Boakai visited with me today.
Oh, wonderful.
It was not expected. It was not requested. But he was making rounds somewhere, and he decided to just drop in on a house and for a courtesy call. Well, he and I had very good, long conversation as two friends, as those who started the Unity Party and had two terms of success with it. And so we had a chance to talk. And so I'm glad that I'm able to say that to people because too many times there are people with the, if you're not me, you're not for me, you're against me. A for Ellie, you're not for Boakai. A for Boakai, you're not for Ellie. All that sort of thing. So maybe he ended that today by coming for us to just sit and talk and say, hey, let people know there's nothing. Liberia is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than Ellen. It's bigger than George. It's bigger than Joe. Liberia is the one that we all are supposed to put our minds on. Now, coming to your question, I think it takes time for a government that starts anew to be able to put together the team that they want with the capacity and the determination and the loyalty to carry out the vision and the strategies that the leader has. And, it takes more time in our country where we all have a tendency to see public service as the only way we can live, the only way we can survive, the only way we can get along. And so everybody crowds the public purse, so to speak. And then it takes time to whittle it down to financial capacity, financial ability to handle the load. And so you have to be very careful how you do it. And then particularly someone starting new must be assured that they have the right people with the right level of integrity and determination and commitment. So I think it's taken some time to get the team going. But I tell you, if you look at the composition of many of the teams that have mandates to carry out the different sectors and different structures of the government, you find that many of these are able people who have served before and who have served well before. And I expect that they are going to pick up if they're coming just as a reappointment because they've been out for the past few years, that they'll come with even more vigorous determination to make it work, to make this government succeed. And I think those of us who are not any part in any direct government role also have a full obligation and commitment to do what we can to move our country forward. And that's where, when you talk about people changing attitudes, uh, changing mindset, is to say, hey, yes, we may not like everything, we may not see the things we want to see, we may not like the people who are appointed, but we still have an obligation to do what we can to carry out our responsibility as citizens. And that does not say that one cannot be a critic, that one cannot point out different places or different things that happen that may not be in accordance either with the law or with the appropriate practices. But I think generally we all are committed to doing what we can to keep our country moving forward if we want to see prosperity for all.
And that's where I was going next, because President Boakai is quite an experienced public servant for over 40 plus years and was one heartbeat away from the presidency for 12 years. While many applaud how far he's come in the last 100 plus days, critics are saying that there have been so many mistakes in the formulation of the government, one person being appointed to two persons being appointed to one position more than 2, 3 times, what seemed to be a flagrant violation of the law, appointing people to tenured positions. Were you able to talk a little bit about some of that today and give a bit of a guidance?
Yeah, frankly, frankly, I don't listen to those things because every time you find something that's wrong, you can find 2 things that's right. So I just listen to that garbage. Tell you the truth. Uh, I think there have been mistakes. No one is perfect. There have been some mistakes in appointment. There have been some mistakes in action. At the same time, you have to look at the totality of it all. Uh, is it not moving in the right direction in totality? You have to say yes with the appointments. You have to say, I don't like this one. Some mistakes here, some errors that happen. But to say that, I find my time saying, I'm coming to say why this person who is tenured did not keep his tenure, and why this person, what I expect is that the president knows the law and the president will abide by the law. And the president will see to it that his appointments are also in accordance with the law. That's what's required of him. And I expect that he will respect that.
Some would argue that that was not respected. I know I'm pushing you, but
Liberian people just have plenty of trouble. No matter what you do, no matter what you do, that. So, Larry, I really would like us to concentrate on what is the responsibility of citizens in this country. What should they do? The journalists, what is their responsibility to their country? How do they uplift the country, the narrative that they carry out into the global space, in which all the time they're finding fault? They find fault with me. They find fault with you.
yes,
They find fault with everybody. Never mind that. We have a right, the citizens have a right to ensure accountability. And so the citizens have a right to be critical when something they feel, to express themselves. That's the freedom we gave them, to be free to say what they want to say. But they must say it with responsibility. And they must say it with honesty. Not not just making talk just because it sounds good to talk and attracts attention.
And talking about that
Yeah.
freedom to talk, because it was during the advent of your administration that the open microphones became prolific, and everybody had a chance in the morning to say their say, and had no fear. Now, it is still here, but one of the things that I want you to weigh in on is public messages must at all times be constructive, and there should be some measure of benefit to the nation's growth and development.
Well, sure, nobody would disagree with that. That messages conveyed to the public must be what? Constructive? Yes, obviously. And I believe that those who craft the messages need to have the ability to do it properly and to be able to convey it in a proper manner that is totally understood. And if they cannot carry that message in such a way that people understand it, and it meets all the standards, national and international, of what's required when you're conveying a message to the public, trying to persuade them to do whatever that message carries, then you have the responsibility to make sure that message is positive, is constructive, and that it carries a message that improves the situation that you're addressing.
And the responsibility as well, madam, is that that message must be truthful, whatever it conveys. Part of why we see in Liberia is that people take the open microphone and they spew out things that are not so correct. And it becomes multiplied over and over. It hurts our nation.
It hurts it very much. And you're trying to put it mildly, Larry, by you saying they say something that's not correct. They lie. Just a plain lie. And it's wrong. And it must be condemned. If people want to convey something, take a little bit of time to check it out, to get the evidence, to get the truth. Then say it. And if you say it because you're saying it because it's correct and it's honest, then you have every right to have that freedom to say it and to criticize it, because then you can defend yourself if it comes to the point where someone challenges what you have said. Can you take the challenge because you have the evidence? Because you have checked the facts. Most times, unfortunately, people don't take the time to do that.
Or sometimes they don't want to.
Well,
because the negativity seems to be the order of the day if I'm not there and you are there.
That's why you are put on this particular program, to change minds and change attitudes. So we need to see you call different people, not just me.
No, we do.
Call different people from all walks of life who set the example, who change things, who make sure that they're uplifting their country by what they say, by what they do, by how they act. Please bring some of them here and listen to them and talk to the nation about that. I hope that that's why I come to your program. I come to your program because I trust your ability to convey the right messages. I trust your ability to probe correctly, and sometimes to even try to push somebody to say something they don't want to say.
Thank you, madam. And we will ask you to be an ambassador for the program so that we get President Boakai on. We think he has a lot to say, and he has done well in his 42 plus years of public service. And there is a message in terms of mindset transformation. So
Well, I'll leave.
we'll commission you.
I will leave that assignment to you. You'll have to write him, talk to him, persuade him. But I think he would be willing anyway. I think he needs a message to the nation from time to time, and yours would be the one of the best places from which he can give it.
Thank you. I want to digress a little bit, and then we'll come back to Liberia. ECOWAS. Today, I listened to Honorable Snow in Togo, and I understand that that country is moving now to the parliamentarian system, and where the president will be elected from within parliament or by parliament, and that thereafter there will be no term limits, and whoever gets elected could be the same president who's been there for 20 plus years. There will be no term limits, and it will go on and on. Is this good for Africa?
Let me just be very frank and say I don't know enough about that system.
Okay.
So I don't want to comment on something that I'm not fully
Right. And that's fair enough.
knowledgeable about.
That's fair
So
enough.
they changed their system. I will try to learn more about it to see what it is. But right now, I could not comment because I don't know.
And that's fair enough. But the rest of ECOWAS, we still have a lot of countries that coup has happened, and those countries have not yet returned to democratic governance. Why are we? I know you are not an active president, but you listen to across the globe and in West Africa.
Yeah, Larry, it's really sad. You know what's happened with some of the ECOWAS nations and the positions that new leaders have taken regarding their place in our region to promote development in all of our countries. That unity that we had, has now been overturned by the four member nations that have decided that they would want to seek a different path, a different partnership. They would like to introduce certain changes in their own political and economic status quo. Well, the determination is by citizens, and we all agree that people's power are the most supreme of all powers, and people have the power to do it. But at the same time, I think leaders have an obligation for mediation, for consultation, for dialogue with citizens and citizens leader groups to be able to see, is that really that's the right vision for them? Does that really provide the prosperity they want? The opportunities for advancement that they seek? Is that the real vision? And I hope that the leaders of ECOWAS are addressing this through such measures, that they are reaching out to the leaders of those countries and dialoguing with them on what are the values of being part of the ECOWAS group and what value we can bring to each country individually and then totally as a sub-region to achieve the kind of unified development that we seek. I'm proud to have been the ECOWAS chair. It was for just a period of 1 year, but in that year, I'm pleased to say that during that year, we did have a very unified body, and where there was problem and conflict, we solved it. And we solved it in a different way in which the country remained a full member, of the ECOWAS body, and we moved on. It's unfortunate that, they have this slippage, but I hope that the leaders now, the chair of ECOWAS and all of the other leaders of ECOWAS, as they meet, will find a means to address this through the proper means of consultation and dialogue.
I want to take you down in Southern Africa just for a moment, because you were in Namibia not very long ago for a somber occasion, to which I would like you to speak. But also, I was fortunate to accompany you to South Africa, and you spoke at the Nelson Mandela Forum, and President Mandela was there and so gracious. But something's happening in South Africa. The violence, the ANC seems to be losing the grip from the news that we're hearing. You were recently in the region. Anything to say about that? Of course, I want you to talk about your presence in Namibia.
Well, Namibia, as you say, we went for a sober occasion, the burial of the president.
Right.
The First Lady is very close to us. She's the co-chair with me on the board for the EJS Center. And so we went not only to console the nation in its totality, but went specially for her and the role we play. And she has been very prominent in so many things as First Lady of Namibia, but also reaching out to her colleagues of similar positions and doing more for the support of women in the continent. So, and Namibia, I notice, is just another Rwanda, you might say, in terms of the discipline, the ability to observe order, to observe authority. I could see another, Rwanda just there in Namibia. And so that was pleasing to say. When it comes to South Africa, we have a very cordial relationship with President Ramaphosa. And the center has reached out to him, and he has even, as one of the former chair of the authority, he had arranged for us to bring the men, the heads of Africa, the men.
Okay.
The heads of states who are men. Well, they're all men anyway. So,
you're not there anymore.
To bring them together to support the advancement of women. And so he started it. He passed it over to President Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then they went to Senegal with President Macky Sall. And we've had these meetings called Positive Masculinity. That's what they title it.
Wow.
In their support for the advancement of women in public service. But South Africa has some problems of its own right now, political problems, and we just hope that President Ramaphosa and his colleagues, particularly our many good friends in the ANC, that they'll find a way to address those problems so they can continue to be they are, after all, economically one of the strongest states in our continent.
Yes.
And we need to see them, continue to be what they are and what they represent. We hope that they'll always be there. We can always count on them to be able to stand up. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa is someone that we all applaud, really, because she's strong. She takes positions, and those positions are the ones that are coming from the voices of the people. And she's very determined and very strong in how she delivers those messages. And so we'd like to see South Africa continue to be the star state that it's always been for Africa.
Sticking with Africa, Madam President, you broke the glass ceiling when you became president in Liberia, and subsequently the only one elected in Africa. It seems like we've returned to the all-boys club again, where we don't seem to see women Now we know Rwanda is a different case, and women are in strong leadership, majority in the parliament, but we don't have another female president.
Yeah, that's sad. But it takes time for someone to become president, particularly a woman. The obstacles that women face to move up one step at a time until you get to the pinnacle and can now be elected or you can be appointed. So to be elected, it takes time and it takes a lot of effort, initiative, self confidence, courage, to be able to achieve that position. So it's very difficult for women, but that's our aim, that's our objective. It's happening at lower levels. There are more women vice presidents now.
Right?
There are more women ministers. There are more women holding seats in the executive, in the judiciary, and whatnot. So it's coming, but it's difficult to reach that very last step that's there. It's very to climb that step is the one, and that one. But
I think it's a
we
mindset
got
thing that
well,
people still don't want female
I'm
presidents.
not going to call names, but we got two coming up. We got two coming up. I didn't say Liberia. We got far from it.
This is your program, The Liberian Renaissance, changing minds and changing attitudes. We've got in studio and we're having a wonderful time. Liberia's former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and, former President par excellence. And this is quite wonderful. I'm going to just move a little bit now, Madam. And by the way, you can send me your messages, not calls, your messages on 0886 546 166, 0886 546 166, or 0772 516 073, 0772 516 073. The management of Liberia Broadcasting System has been gracious for us to go a little bit over 6 o'clock because we have a lot to learn from Madam President. So, Madam President, I want to go to the United States before we come back to Liberia. America, as you know, is on its way to elections in November. Have you been following the trend of events and this negatively historical event in America where a former president is on trial for criminal acts?
Very unusual. Very strange. I cannot answer, for my good friends in America, how they take this, but and I just don't see how it's going to end because, just like you say, it's very unusual. I don't think certainly the United States has not seen anything nowhere close to that before. So everybody is dumbfounded as to how did it get this far? How did it come in such a way that the daily newscasts that are sent globally, has a president going through this, a former president going through this? It's bizarre, if I may put it that way. So we all just hope that they'll find a way in this election year to get the right one, to make sure that democracy prevails and that partnerships remain intact.
You're choosing your words very carefully. A shrewd diplomat indeed. Your friends.
That's what diplomacy is all about.
Yes.
You just don't meddle.
Send us your text messages for Madam President 0886-546-166. Don't call me 0886-546-166 or 0772-516-073. You got back into the country and you went out tasting food. Taste of Liberia.
Oh, that was a great event. It was the Alpha Kappa Alpha Society,
Right.
sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority
Yes.
that had this.
You remember, aren't you?
Oh, yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm a lifetime member.
Yes.
So they had a display of Liberian products, food, but not only food, cosmetics, clothing, everything that people displayed their goods. And we went there to the Unification Park,
Right.
which itself is a great gift to the country.
Yes.
Um,
I'm in awe every time I pass by. A
and
good way to turn a place that seemed to have had some bad memories, turn around.
it's the whole story of that, I don't think has been told yet or told properly yet. But maybe someday it will be done. But for the moment, just going through that and watching all the amounts of produce that are produced by Liberians,
Yes.
I think I always, when I go to the supermarkets, they all know me. As soon as I get, they show me a stack that has the Liberian food, and I go straight there to get it. And I take stuff when I'm traveling. I take some of the Liberian stuff with me, to introduce it to other Liberians who, some of them already have a steady flow of things,
Right.
taking things there, bringing things here. They do a lot of that, but we can take a lot of this stuff to them, and everybody enjoys it when we go with that. So I just hope everybody would do more to support the Liberian produce.
And I'm glad you went because, let's face it, it was during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Joe Boakai administration that the Liberian products started to come up, and then pepper and all kinds of stuff, even alcohol. I mean, so it's continuing, and I think this continuity is good for our country. It's good for our commerce.
So then, this is why I will put my little bit of criticism. I expected to see at that event, I expected to see several ministers, executives, from the present administration. I expected to see them there, to be able to support the AKA and their effort to promote Liberian produce, but I didn't see many of them there. Maybe I didn't stay long enough. Maybe they came later.
I think they went after you had left.
Okay, that's a good excuse.
Okay, so a text message. Good evening, Mr. Bropleh. Let me just go straight to it. Madam President, please give us your take on the issue of War and Economic Crimes Court. If established in Liberia, will it help Liberia in terms of its economy, security, and jobs?
I took my position on that when I was president,
Yes, I remember that.
and that position still holds. I have not changed it, and I will not change it. They know my position on that.
I'd like to restate it.
My position on that was to use the Kachacha approach of Rwanda. After genocide, they found a way to seek unification of their nation through forgiving, through confession, forgiveness, peace things, when they could talk, but people had the right to speak out, people had a right to challenge, people even had a right to sue, but the nation as a nation found a way to resolve it.
And they've done it well.
Yeah. And Rwanda today, as much as I can see, is unified through that effort.
Okay, so
we have to do what we have to do.
Yes.
Let the people voice prevail. What they want, that's what we do.
Another one. Madam President, thank you so much You're always candid when you come on the show, and we appreciate you and we love you. Any word for our educational system? Because some of our young people still can't even do the basic spelling. It's true what they're saying.
I know he brings me back to way back there some time ago when I said I was surveying some of the school system, and I say our school system is a mess. You remember I said?
I was Minister of Information when you said that, so
And
I have to keep going out there defending.
I've never lived it down. It's so much that when George Werner was appointed Minister of Education, his whole line was from mess to best.
Yes.
And he spent his whole time working on mess to best. So right now we're back to mess, then we'll work to best again.
My name is Daniel Dean, and I want to congratulate your studio guest, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, for her achievements nationally and the world at large. A few weeks ago, the Gender International magazine also honored her for her glass ceiling breaking achievements. But Queen received the award because of her travel. Please let us know when you will be ready to receive the award from the institution, as we are excited to present it to you. Oh, it must be
Which institution?
Gender International magazine. I'm just hearing about them. Okay, so let's get in touch with the president's office.
Well, look, let's do a little bit differently. Why don't they deliver it to me in Monrovia?
All right. I think they are in Monrovia.
They are?
I think so, or at least they have representation here.
Oh.
So, yeah, so you got your answer. Find the president. She has an office across from what's the name of the park? Invincible Park.
Stop it now.
We can't miss your house now. It's easy to find.
You're saying it the right thing, right? You're just teasing people. They always call it Invisible Park.
I know. I'm a stickler for the correct pronunciation.
Invincible Park. That's what you said it with emphasis, right?
So they'll get it.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Liberian Renaissance, changing minds and changing attitudes. We're almost out of time, but you're watching us on the ELBC, LNTV, Metro TV, 99.9, 89.9, and other frequencies across the country. Madam, we're almost there. I'll soon let you go. You're not driving yourself, though.
Oh, thank God I stopped that a little while.
I never forget
But I do it every now and then. It's very important to me. So it may be Sundays when the traffic is very low. But on Sundays I can take the vehicle and can drive myself.
I never forget. I was sitting next to a lot of people 2018 January when you passed the baton and you got into your car and drove off the SKD by yourself. And people just were clapping. They kept saying, this Omar, you can't make it with her. I mean, but you told me that two things you never forget: driving and swimming.
Absolutely. You can never
still swim. You have a pool in your yard.
I do. And I swim every day too.
I don't see your rice growing.
Because you saw we put a lot of rocks in the place there because we want to do some parking space. So, but the last time I cut rice, I think we cut the rice. Where was it? November.
Oh, okay.
I think we cut rice in November, and we couldn't get them or something, so we sent them up to the farm for them to beat. They still got some of my rice up there. So
I need to get it. I love country rice.
Well, they will use some for seed rice.
Yeah, well, I didn't get
they will plant some this year.
They don't send me some as well.
All right. Okay. I see one of my security. Yeah, he will tell them one bag of the rice from my yard, not the one for their farm, from my yard, so they can send it to Dr. Bropleh. Huh? All right. So you just earn yourself one bag of rice.
Thank you very much. Okay, so one more. We're winding down. Thank you, technology. Okay. Thank you, Madam former President of the Republic of Liberia. I'm a strong follower of yours. Madam President, concern has to do with your voice. And please tell me the secret behind your voice, because your voice sounds like a young girl. Only on my program. The next one says, I'm elated to hear the voice of our former president after the presidency. Where does she want Liberia to be? From Benny Brown.
I want Liberia to be a place that is free, that is moving well in the achievement of development, where people are responsible, where everybody owns a part of the country, everybody contributes and benefits from the country equally. So that's equity, justice, prosperity. Those are some of the part of our vision that we have to continue to do what we can to achieve the goals that are set by that vision. Liberia can be a rich place. Rich is not always in money. Rich is in endowment, freedom, rights, justice. Those are the richness of society that only we coming together can get for ourselves.
You are a big fan of the county meet. And when you were president, I'm not sure you ever missed semifinals or finals if you were in the country. On Monday, there was a game between Nimba and Grand Unit. That game ended, and the aftermath of the game was very sad. There was violence.
Oh,
There was destruction of seats at the stadium that the previous government had struggled to put there so that SKD will become FIFA compliant. It was very terrible, Madam President. And I said on OKFN this morning that it's a mindset thing, because if the young people take ownership for their country and see themselves as part of it, these things will not happen. But it's still happening.
well, I didn't know about it, but it's unfortunate, like you say. We have to learn to get to the place where we can live together, where we can do things together, where we can have differences and still respect each other and still honor each other and still work with each other. It's a mindset that we all have to work on individually, collectively. Leaders of the society have to do more, say more to try to encourage this. It's unfortunate that people go out to play a game which is the entertainment for everybody.
And the one unifying
Not only
thing,
for
the
the
counter meet.
players, yeah, for players, but for those who are there. It's unfortunate when that ends up in chaos. It's sad.
You've given us much of your time. Any recommendation for the good of the order?
Well, no, there's one thing that comes to mind, and I'll just throw it out there for people to ponder and see what they can do. I understand there's an international surfing
Yes.
competition
Yes, I heard about that.
that is being planned for Liberia. And this is an international group. The surfing is held in the one place that has been globally recognized
Exactly.
as the second place where you can have surfing, you know, in the world. And Liberia is one of those picked for this thing. To me, it's an honor
Yes.
that Liberia would have been picked. And they're bringing these surfers from all over, I don't know, over the world. I don't know which countries, but they're bringing them here for this competition, which is going to bring a lot of attention and praise to Liberia for doing this. But I do understand that there are constraints, financial constraints to support the teams. I don't know whose the teams are. Maybe infrastructure constraints, like the road and thing. But my appeal to everybody out there who have the means to address this, some of our corporate leaders, some of our political leaders, and all, that they should form a committee, try to put a group together and see what can be done to give the support to the organizers so that that event can take place. Because once it takes place, it will bring a lot of attention to Liberia, and attention can bring investment, and investment can bring employment,
Yes.
and employment can bring money. So if you have to do some of these things step by step, one step leads to another. So that means, for me, it's just an appeal. Well, if somebody call me tomorrow, I'm traveling tomorrow morning. They will say she said I think now because she knows she will leave in the morning.
I'm glad you said your trip was.
But it was good to say. But I had to say it anyway. It's an appeal to everyone.
Ruben,
Okay.
we have at least one question to Madam President. My God, wait, we got a young man here.
Oh, sorry, Ruben.
A quick one.
We took all your time. I apologize.
Greetings, Madam President.
Mhm.
I'm Ruben D. Dolly Jr., student of the United Methodist University, studying biology, and my aspiration is to become a medical doctor.
Good.
And my focus is on education.
Mhm.
Madam President, how important do you view the role of education in fostering a culture of democracy, accountability, and good governance in Liberia?
Ruben, education is the key. There's nothing that you can do to achieve anything if you don't have the knowledge to do it. Education brings knowledge. Knowledge brings ability. Ability brings progress. So education is the key. And I'm glad that you are doing just the right thing. But if you want to be a doctor, also look at WOT to get some practical experience. UMU will give you a lot of good academic theoretical experience. WOT will give you some practical experience. When you combine the two, you're on the way to be a good doctor. It will not be all. You will need to do specialization training, but that would be a good starting point to be a good doctor. I may not be around, but when you get to be a doctor, wherever I will be waving you from heaven.
Doesn't look like you're going anywhere just now. Different. That's the voice of Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former president of the Republic of Liberia. We've had a good time on the Liberian Renaissance, changing minds and changing attitudes. Musu Sirleaf has been on the money. She has been taking us through as not only our production person, but the one who has guided us. Until next time, be an agent of change. So long. Long before